Welcome to Endgame Sensei, where I give two hapless IMs a position to rough them up a little bit, to make them strong. Last couple weeks have seen some miserable chess, some absolutely miserable chess. As you can see, my hair is growing white. And recently, I met a woman, and she said she used to be a dominatrix. And I said, used to be? That's a shame. Why not anymore? And she said it was too much work. Then I instantly thought of this show and how much work it is to give these positions to these two guys. It's a lot of work. People always think it's the dominatrix having fun. No, it's a lot of work to be a dominatrix, my friend. There's a lot of emotional energy spent. So here we go in this position. Last time, Kostya made a sad excuse that unless the clock was running, he ain't really thinking. Okay? So here we have this position. I'm going to give him 5 minutes to think. We're going to do some blah, blah. But in that blah, blah time, he's going to have to be thinking. Not just like saying, oh, he's not thinking until the clock runs. So here we go. And I'm going to make a poll. This is a very complicated one, my friends. All these positions, by the way, classic games, we're going to have them play it out. So it's a very simple question. Who is better? It's white to move. And the simple question is, who is better? We're going to give 5 minutes for this poll. White, mess, black. And we're going to give 5 minutes. I'm going to start this poll. All right. And after a couple minutes, I'll ask David and Kostya to give their opinion. And
it's equal.
No, think first. Don't give me that Kostya thing where you're going to give me the excuse later.
I was already thinking.
Please.
I'm not going to give you an excuse.
Please, David. Please, give it a moment. You're looking at one of the most complicated positions maybe I've ever seen. Okay.
Wow.
No, really, this one's really tough. All right, so just, if you haven't been to the Endgame Sensei, let me just tell it how it's going to go. After this 5 minutes, I'm going to assign them to play either side. They don't know which one. The time control will be 5 minutes with a 30-second increment. So they need to be thinking now about what their first move might be, what the plans might be. It is very tough. And like most endgame positions, honestly, they have the tendency to become very concrete. Like this one, let's just say there's some positional ideas here, but it's obviously very concrete. And I'll talk a little bit once the business starts about how it goes. And then at the very end, we'll probably have time to run it back. By run it back, I just mean to flip colors on these guys and let them go the other way. And then at the very end, I'll show you the game it stems from, and we'll get to compare their play to the game. And it's interesting. Obviously, these guys are AMs. A lot of these games I'm looking at are, very high-level players, either from back in the day or more recently. And so there's an interesting comparison. And a lot of times, I've just found these in endgame books, and I've studied them without the computer, and I just have some idea of what's going on. But like this one, I think one of the reasons I think it's interesting is that I'm pretty sure we'll get a divergence from the game immediately. And I have no idea where these guys are going to go with this position, my friends, or who they're going to say is better and why, or those kinds of questions. Right. Oh, we got a beautiful raid. Thank you very much. If you're just joining us, these two hapless IMs are going to be forced to play this position, probably with both colors. Classic endgame. All right, we're getting there, and I'll tell you guys the first preliminary results of the chat. We got a little bit of advantage for white. No one's saying black so far. Interesting. No one's saying black. Okay. Let's get initial impressions. Kostya, would you rather be white or would you rather be black here?
Oh boy. That's tough. I guess I would rather be white.
Okay.
Because we got the outside pass pawn, which I don't think is that important, but sometimes it is. I mean, to me, okay, it's not clear if black's king is active or if it's vulnerable, but we're not going to have a lot of time on the clock, and I don't know. To me, it's scary to be where Black's king is at right now.
Okay, fair enough. David, what do you think?
I think it should probably be a draw. Although I see you gave the option of a mess, so I think that's like that is a better option you gave than equal. That's kind of like in the direction of unclear, right? It's like
Okay, yeah.
I can't tell who's better or worse, and like there's weird stuff going on. My guess would be that it should be about equal. I think that yeah, I mean, when I don't know what's going on, then I think like a perpetual check is a plausible result in a queen endgame, and white might be slightly better practically speaking because they have some kind of like a normal shelter for their king. So there are probably like some scenarios where like if black messes up then they can't bail out with a perpetual check, and there are some scenarios where white could mess up and then bail out with a perpetual check. So maybe white's got like a little bit more room for error, which is going to be important given how we play it, right?
Okay, fair enough. And one of the things I'm going to stress now, and also just for people to think about while we're playing this out, is at various points, probably while we're watching, it will feel like a mess. And one of the things I just want to stress is when we actually see the game, I think certain principles of queen endgames will become clear. So it is, yes, messy, but there are going to be certain principles at stake, or rather like the spirit of the position, or whatever you want to call it. We had no one saying black, 40% saying mess, 60% saying white is better. Interesting. I'm surprised no one said black. There's arguments for black being better. Maybe it's simply because I said it was white to move. Okay, so we're about to start this madness.
That's an argument in favor of black. I don't want to make a move here. Too hard to figure out.
I was going to say something meaningful. Oh, yeah. Before we start, I'll say Nordovich, friend of the dojo, just mentioned that there's a rumor that I'm going to be playing the Colorado Open in, I think it's, oh gosh, I better know when it is, later in the spring. And I'm hoping David and Kostya come join me for that thing. I played that pre-COVID, beautiful tournament. And so that's the one event I know I'm going to be playing in the near future. Should be really fun. And we're talking about tournaments. So there we go. All right, you guys ready? Are you in live chess? Here it comes.
Let's see.
Uh-oh.
I think I need to log in.
Uh-oh. Someone needs to log in. Okay.
All right, I'm here.
All right, so they're going to turn off their mics and they're go silent and all that stuff. Here we go. Boom. All right, there it is, my friends. Here is the game. What a total mess. Now, I want to say the two principles of queen endgames that I think I understand are that the queen wants to centralize. Mostly she's so powerful when she's centralized. She doesn't want to centralize at the beginning of the game, but the more the game goes on, she wants to centralize. The next thing about queen endings that I think is salient is that pass pawns matter more than they did in other situations. And the main reason for that is the queen has a hard time sacrificing herself for a pawn, right? So I think if you wanted to just guess who is better without doing any calculation, you could say white is closer to the edge. And Kostya plays the most ambitious move, a5, and I'm going to guess we're going to now see d4, which will then give white an immediate question about the f2 square. So there we go. And hey, look at that. We are now following the game. And so that's good. We're going to see now what Kostya does. This game, by the way, is Larson against Anderson, 1975. They had a match back then. And there's a really nice move that white plays. Here, I'll let you guys think of it yourselves. And we might even get this position again in game 2 if we run it back with these guys. Larson was white. Anderson was black. Did I blow it with the clock? I always blow it with the clock. No, this time I actually did it okay with the clock setup. Yeah, he's thinking about it. I really do believe that for Kostya to make GM, that the endgames are the weakest part of his game, like a lot of IMs. His openings are fine, his tactics are fine, general chess culture, or whatever you want to call it, fine, but the endgames need work, and it's difficult. It's just a difficult business. All right, so here we go. What will Kostya do? Maybe you might be able to find the move just by default. As in, maybe there's nothing else to do except play the right move. Yeah, and the right move really captures a lot of the spirit of the queen ending, like I said. Captures the spirit. Drittman saying queen c6. That might be an option. Nordovich is playing, Amandala's playing this weekend. Queen c6 is kind of interesting, though you have to wonder about d3 after queen c6. Yeah. And Kostya's, it's correct for him to think here. Of course, queen c6, you also have to wonder about queen f2. Queen c6 and d3. And let's just mention, let's just say the obvious. We're in a race here, my friends. We are in a race to get to the other side of the board. Queen c6, d3, a6. Maybe that queen f2 is looking pretty rough right there. But maybe. And then, of course, we could just run it too. Yeah, it's going to be very spicy. It would not surprise me if queen c6 was played. Okay. All right, so we'll see. I have a feeling we might see this again in game 2. In the game, Larson playing white. Maybe I shouldn't reveal. I'll let you guys still think about it. Queen c6 does present practical challenges to black. There's no question about it. And we got queen f2 and d3. Usually I say what the top players played. And this time, I don't know. Maybe it's just best to reserve. We'll end up seeing it anyway. Maybe it'll force you to watch to the end, right? Maybe it'll force those of you who watch the end here, whether you're watching on YouTube or Twitch, right, live. So let's think about it for David. He's got plenty of time, definitely a critical position. And queen f2, d3, and you could play queen c6, king e6, but you will... No, I don't think you want to do it. Let's imagine queen c6 takes king e6, a6, and d3, c7, king d7, a7, d2, c8 queen, a8 queen, and then we queen with check. So you got to be a little careful here. That's why d3 is the first move to come to mind. It's going to be hot. Yeah. It is going to be very hot. And I think it was Nordovich, correct me if I'm wrong. No, it was Drittman, said d3, a6. Let's imagine d3, a6, queen f2. Oh, it's hot. King h3. Ah! Oh, buddy. King h3. And then it would be d2, our old friend d2. You know? Doesn't look good. That's a pass pawn. That is a pass pawn. Yeah, that makes me nervous. Next, it will be tune in next week. Oh, come on. No, we'll end up covering it. And I also, you know what? I'll tell you what. I'm suspicious that they're sometimes lurking. They're not lurking, Cry. Take it easy, buddy. But I was suspicious that they're lurking. So D3, we'll see that White's move, in fact, I think is designed. The reason it's a really brilliant move, and I think it's designed precisely for this problem. Now, maybe White has a way of giving Black some grief after d3. And I haven't seen it yet. Because a6, queen f2 gives me a heart attack. And maybe you could try to draw by perpetual check with queen d7, but I don't see it. I can think it would go queen d7, king e4. Oh gosh, it's getting hairy. Queen g4, king d5. Oh man. It's a real mess. But it's like I said, as far as at least my superficial brain in that position was not seeing an easy, clear way. But White, you can ask yourself, is White the one playing for a draw? And you'd think that he's the one playing for a win with his big fat pawn on a5. All right, queen f3, king e6. That looked like a pre-move. These guys that, millennials, they move so fast. And Kostya has now just some simple problems to solve. I don't see how to solve them. a6. Okay, so here we go. He's banking on d2, a7, d1. And that looks lost because the pawn, if anything gets traded, it's lost because the pawn on h5 is going to go. Or at least, let's call it clear advantage for Black. So we're anticipating d2 here. One advantage for Mr. Proust, I guess, is when we run it back. If he decides that the first couple moves were correct, then he can try to refine his second move for White. Excuse me. And Drittman gave a line. I think I understand it, and it seems right to me. Yeah. So, d2, my friends. I don't know what else Black could do besides d2, honestly. But Mr. Proust is a calculator, so he's correct. Think it out. What would you recommend to someone to help with the middle game? Well, those of you around the dojo long enough know that my answer to almost all these questions is that analyzing your own games is the best way to improve. And that goes for the opening, that goes for the end game, that goes for the middle game. Excuse me. And on our training program that we're developing, I'm really trying to force the dojo to be diligent about saying, hey, you need to go over your games, and then to create a system where people maybe even help other people go over their games. And there's all kinds of things to do with tactics and great books out there. The advanced books that I like are Perfect Your Chess and The Best Move by Hort and Jansa. But going over your games, you're going to find so many things in there, and you kind of, normally in a game too, it's not a problem, right? It's just like a position where you have to find a good move. It's usually not White to move and win or Black to move and win, right? And that's usually what problems are. Sorry, I got a little bit of frog in my throat. Yo, Proust, what are you thinking about, buddy? Am I missing something? That's pretty much true for Eddie Brett. D2, finally. I don't know. He was thinking about something else. You'd think, or maybe he's just calculating out to the end. I'm a big fan of, if there's no other move and it's complicated, just do it. Because here we're going to go. Now, a couple moves are going to come off, and that'll give our friends 30 seconds each here. So the variation I saw ages ago was like queen d1, and then a8, queen h5. However, White could also play a8 now with a fine mess as well. A fine mess. Yeah, so good move, a8. And now we're in a position, what are we going to say? Probably roughly equal. The game isn't going to be a draw, though, right? It's just going to be a complete mess. And does David have anything fancy? I doubt it. He's going to have to trade queens. That's my gut, anyway. Yeah, because there's like, White's threatening queen e8 or some weird stuff like that. So the simpleton way to play it, if I was just playing a blitz game, would be like queen f3, queen f3, queen c5, right? But it's not unreasonable for black to be thinking, do I have anything better than that? One of the points of the Endgame Sensei, of course, is just to get positions like this where now it's just gone nuts and it's just like a real game. Oftentimes you just kind of lose control of the business, and now you have to play a position, right? And best player is still going to win this thing. Now, a super ambitious move would be f5. That allows b6, though, so I'm not real keen on it. That's why I'm thinking queen c5 is what he should be thinking about. Queen c5, and then queen e2, queen d3, and then, black can claim, hey, my king's a little bit more active or something like that. So it should be fundamentally equal. Should be just fundamentally equal. Okay, I guess that one. Queen c5. Queen c6 will not work because if takes, king d6. Queen g4, as far as I can tell, isn't that special. We can play both king e7 and king f6. Yeah, I think queen c2 is too much. In tournaments nowadays, back in the day you never had this, but nowadays that sometimes they'll give you an extra queen on the side of the board just for this one situation where you might get 4 queens. It didn't last that long. Back in the day, we put a rook upside down. It lasted like 5 seconds usually. It's a pretty rare occurrence for there to be the extra queen hanging out longer than any period of time. Anyways, that is that. Okay. So, boom. I want to say, just in chess news here while we're waiting, that I was surprised that Naka did as well as he did. Not that, maybe I shouldn't have been surprised, but dude, he's all of a sudden Naka's bringing it, man. All of a sudden he's bringing it. Queen d5. Good move. I think a good move anyway. Makes sense. I think king e7 was fully playable. But now actually queen d5 I'm not 100% on because of queen b2. And let me say, the passed pawns are the thing in this. It's kind of like in certain positions the value of the initiative goes up, and I think with the queen ending, the interesting thing is, and we'll see this in the actual game too, that the value of the passed pawn is the only thing that matters, and how far it is to the end of the rank. You can give up everything. You can give up everything for that little honey of a pawn. Yeah, queen b2, okay. Like I said, somebody's going to win this thing. And now Mr. Proust probably should be thinking about e4, which will force a draw if b6 because of queen h5, or queen g7, also queen h5. I do not think you want to give black the opportunity to be playing b6. Too much. Yeah, Yeah, I think e4 is fine. No need to be so fancy pants about it. I just had king d7. See, Mr. Proust is he's an anti-capitalist and he's also a madman. You know, king d7. No, you're letting that pawn roll, buddy. What are you doing? Hold on, Daddy. Look closer at that. What are you doing? King d7. Let's say the obvious. b6. What are you gonna do? King c8. Queen c3. Game over. See, at heart, he's a pawn grubber. At heart, Mr. Proust is a pawn grubber. And he doesn't like draws, so he's probably said to himself something like, well, e4 is a draw, so I'm not doing that. And now he's going to lose, man. Or at least, let's just say the obvious. If Kosti has to play queen, queen c3. Queen c3, gute Nacht. What are you doing? Queen c3. Boss, you giving me the hairs again? Oh, dude. Hey, yo, Proust. What are you doing, dog? Oh, gosh. He kills me. Am I missing something? Can someone help me out here? Am I missing, like, queen c3? Check to the miserable king. Queen c3 and queen c2. As far as I can tell, the exact same move. Could play queen c1. You missed 3 different moves, Proust. Kosti was like, I'm going to put it on a light square because that's a little bit more attractive. And maybe it is. Maybe that is cooler, Kosti, to put it on a light square. I don't know, Mr. Proust. Stinking up the dojo, man. Stinking it up over here. NM asks, how does Endgame Sensei work? Well, we take a classic position like this one. And I have them play it out. And then, usually from both sides, we usually have the time. And then, after that's all done, we get a chance to look at how the position was played by the maestros. Played by the maestros, yeah. This, after b7, I'd be stunned if this isn't winning. I'd be stunned. Yeah, this is just done, my friends. Done. Proust, stinking up the dojo. Oh, man. Stinking it up. Queen b6 will hold everything, and here it's easy. You just play queen c6 check, make the king move, b8, queen f2, queen g2, shake hands, goodbye. Shake hands, goodbye. Man, Proust, that was a stinker. King d7 on move 9. Yuckity yuck. Yuckity yuck. Oh, my white hairs, they're just increasing, my friends. I wonder if he has it on auto queen. He could make a rook, he's still winning. That's fine, but make a queen, Kosti. Don't mess with us like that. And now Mr. Proust better resign. All right, there we go. Man. You know what I did too? I made this simple mistake. I always do it. I forgot to tell you guys who was white and who was black, but I'm hoping that was clear. I'm gonna be better about it next time. Okay? I'm gonna be better. All right. They're gonna join me, and then we're gonna run it back. So.
Again?
Yeah, we're gonna go again. Okay. King d7, Proust? Jeez, Melise, buddy. Death Wish. Maybe we should call you Death Wish.
To be fair, that was the move I was expecting, and I didn't see that I was winning until he made that move.
Uh-huh. Just e4, buddy. What are you doing? Okay, here we go. We're going to run it back, and I'm going to try to jadoob the clocks.
I missed queen c3 to c7.
I figured. All right, here we go. Boom. Here they go, my friends. So I'm going to have to jadoob something, I'm sure. So what am I going to jadoob? So first of all, we're going to move this little clock down here, and we're going to move this little clock up here. And then we're going to move this little clock over here. There we go. And then I'm going to text it, and I'm going to say, David is white. Sorry about the blunder earlier. So there we go. A5. Well, we're going to get it. And we'll see if Mr. Proust finds the big one, if I'm allowed to call it that, the big move after D4. We will see. Now, one thing DM Hokie did for me is he forced me to get a new computer, a desktop. So now when I run Stockfish, it's like super powered, man. I can feel the difference. There's so much juice in that machine. It's just filling me with electric power. I haven't felt that much power since I got that Chess Punks medallion, you know? I'm feeling a lot of power since then. Anyways, I got this 2 screens, blasted out, you know, huge board that I'm able to look at. There it is, D4. Now the big moment for Mr. Proust. Will he find the move? Well, I promise we'll look at it. We'll look at it. Yep. There it is. Queen B7. Correct. Correct, Mr. Proust. Correct. Woo! There it is. One of the reasons I chose this was that even though this is very complicated, the point is that it doesn't matter about how many pawns you've got. It matters how fast they're running. And a lot of situations happen like this, where you can put the queen on G2, defend everything, and as long as those babies are rolling, you know, as long as those babies are rolling faster than your opponent's babies are rolling, then you're in business. Now, let's say there's 2 main options here. Queen F2 and D3, right? Queen F2 and D3. Good. I need a curved screen, huh? That's what my student friend James Altucher was. James Altucher. You know, it's funny. I lived in Germany for the longest time, and it's hard for me to say the German names in the correct way. James Altucher told me to get the curved screen. All right, Queen G2, presenting a very simple problem for black. What to do here, my friend? Very difficult. Trade queens, D3, King F2, game over. Right? Game over. So, maybe we could criticize Kostya for a little bit of quickness with L Queen F2. But Queen B7 was the star move. To my mind, the double X clamp. I mean, maybe if you just stare at it a while, you're like they did, like they had 2 games with it, you eventually find it. But I really like it for the ideas behind it. Now, of course, you're tapping F7 with Queen B7. And so one of the key questions for me was, what about D3? And that isn't even covered. So I got this from Van Perlo's Endgame Tactics. And D3 was definitely a move that I looked at that I think I calculated to a win for white. But I thought it was the most challenging. This was actually played in the game, though. Queen F2 and now Queen E3. So they are now following the game. And Mr. Proust still has to prove himself a genius here for this to work out for him. And there is truly some madness still happening here. So he's got 5 minutes. This is where he's going to have to tank a little bit. Let me put in this perspective. Now, Anderson was black, great endgame expert, maybe one of the greatest of all time. And he played this Queen F2 and E3 too. Arguably, though, what I see happening with Queen F2 and E3 is, yes, you won a pawn, but didn't you lose a tempo, right? Because when we start off after Queen B7, let's just say that's our starting position, and we're running the pawns. Now it's white's move, and he gets to move a pawn, and he's going to be one step closer. So you lost your chance to play d3 on move 2. b6, we are now following the game. So maybe we don't have to show you guys the game. Maybe Bruce will do the whole thing. So black's in a rough spot now. And I think the choices are queen b3 and d3. Queen b3 and d3. Yeah. It is rough, my friends. It is really rough. Both moves will require very accurate play from white. Very accurate play. Good question. How do you choose between pushing the A and the B pawn? The main reason to push the B pawn here is black wants to play D3 next move anyway. So if you played A6 and we played D3, then my queen is acting like a blockader against those pawns moving forward. So queen B3, we are following the game. We are following the game. I give Kosi a lot of garbage. And even though we can criticize some of these moves as being inaccurate, they are in fact following Larson Anderson from their match in 1975. Yeah. Larson, of course, it's funny, a lot of people don't understand how strong the guy was. That he found queen b7 and b6 is kind of an indicator. But, back in the day, a lot of people actually thought, before Fischer won, that Larson was stronger than Fischer. And, of course, when they had the USSR versus the rest of the world, it was kind of a little mini scandal as to who should play first board. And then they fought and whined and yada, yada. And I think one of the kind of interesting things about, when you think about Larson, is the guy was so inventive that I think he had a reputation of being unsound, Okay, big moment for Mr. Proust. I will say Larson plays a stunner here, an absolute stunner. Beautiful move from white here. I can kind of imagine getting to this position as white, but to have played what Larson played would have been tougher. Would have been tougher for me. Okay, this move was not the move played. However, it's certainly not ridiculoso. Now, what's the problem with this move? I think the problem is that you got to wonder, if I play like e4 and d3, and we could argue about which move order. If I play e4 and d3, let's say e4, a6, d3, how do you advance L pawn? Because you can't play a7 at that point, right? And if your queen starts moving around, then we got to wonder about the perpetual check possibilities for black. All right, d3. So I'm anticipating now a6 and then e4. That's what I'm anticipating. So a6, e4, and it is, at the very least, difficult to evaluate. Here's a potential problem. Maybe d3. Well, this is really close here. So, one idea here for white is to play queen f2, queen b6. But queen f2, now king g4 can happen. And maybe a good argument for playing d3 first is we cover the f4 square. So on queen f2, king g4, there's no queen f4. And d3 also covers e2. So once you push a6, there's no more queen f2, queen b6 stuff, right? And one of the amazing things when we come back and look at this, now maybe white will find a way to win this with b7 too, but definitely Larson found a cleaner reply, and what it means is he went down this rabbit hole and decided at the very least it was too complicated for him. That he wanted something cleaner. And it's just an amazing move that he plays. But maybe this is still winning, but it's going to get hectic, and white could, of course, also have an accident here. This is definitely territory where you could have an accident. So if queen f2, king g4, and I don't know what white does then, and otherwise, I'm just seeing a6, and then presumably e4, and then maybe white has some magic there, but I don't. It's not clean to me. It's not a clean variation. Queen h3, certainly a thought, but then there's definitely questions about what we're doing after any of the king moves, honestly. Right? King f6, I guess, being the most obvious one. Yeah, that's hot as well. Yep. So I think Pooh Bear's talking about queen h3, and we can imagine an idea of maybe playing queen c8, right? Here we go, a6. Yeah, very good. We're imagining maybe e4, queen h3. Now, maybe black could also, well, this is one of the reasons I think Larson's move is great, because it's so complicated here. Maybe black could also consider, if he decides e4 is too hectic, to play queen b6, with the notion that we keep white's queen in check with queen f2 problems, right? So if queen h3, then we go do the queen f2 stuff. Oh, buddy. The queen h3, by the way, instead of a6 was also interesting. Queen b6, okay, there we go. With 3 seconds remaining, that's why these millennials are so good, man, because they can play with just 0 time on the clock. They don't care. They really don't care. First question is, could Proust play queen f3, king g5, queen d3? That's a very basic question for me. Where queen f2, I just play king h3, and I smile. I don't know. Looks like a question for me. It would be very satisfying to go win that pawn, of course. So queen f3 looks like the big question I have for white here. Last week we had a really intense rook endgame where both David and Kostya played a move at the first move that my initial instinct was wrong. It was wrong. Like, it just wasn't as pretty as the move played. And we might have ourselves a situation like that here with the move b7 on move 5. Maybe it does work. One of the issues with it is it did give black, I think, a lot of possible chances. So queen f3, this does look terrible for Kostya. And then I don't know where the king goes. I think we pick it up because we're covering the f1 square. So here, check, here, and then what do you do? What do you do? I don't know. I don't know. That's a big deal there. Right? There it is. Pick up the pawn. Thank you very much. F5, played quickly. Okay. Maybe your best practical chance to do something like that. Maybe a lot of ideas here for white. Queen d2, queen a2, for example. That's an idea. It's always going to be white. It's always going to be tricky to avoid some kind of perpetual check. That's like white's key objective now. Besides queen d2 to a2, I don't see anything clear. Arguably, maybe he just plays the lame-o queen e2 as well, saying, well, black, you don't really have anything. I can play queen a2 next move. Also a thought. Oh, it's getting tight with the 30 seconds. One of the things, too, I want to say about this Endgame Sensei is this 30-second increment thing, in terms of it being a standard now in tournament play, is just new, especially for me. So we're trying to learn it. Trying to learn how to do it. Okay, queen e2, fair enough. Big question for Coach, what to do. Just in terms of blitz instincts, maybe he plays f4. But f4 is queen e5. So it's a real bummer of a move because black needs to do something pronto. He needs to do something pronto, and not so easy to figure out what it is you're supposed to do here. Play for definitely he should think of weird stalemate tricks. I don't know how they happen here, but that's what you should be thinking of. Maybe, I don't know. I don't have any answers because queen a2 is a real threat. Yeah, I don't have any good moves here for the guy. Queen a2 is going to give us the blues. There goes e4. Yeah. So is there anything that black can do after queen a2? I don't know. It doesn't look good, my friends. Imagine queen a2, queen a7, then we go back and we say queen b2, and it's just a nasty story, right? Just a nasty story. Question, does the black queen have any moves? I didn't see it. Queen a7 or queen c7 in both cases, then we put the queen behind the passed pawn. Queen f1, oh, daddy didn't understand that move. What are you doing? What? Why wouldn't you play queen a2? Am I missing something? Did I miss something obvious? Queen f1? All right, maybe it's fine. The intention, I guess, play queen f4 and b8 queen. Maybe it's a little unorthodox, but it might be just totally fine. Queen b2 check to the miserable king. And now the ambitious move would be king h3. Could play queen g2, but that's not what he wants. He wants to put that big fat queen on queen f4. So I guess that's what we're expecting. And I think what we'll do after this is I'll just invite them to the board and we can move the pieces around with the actual game, and we can look at their continuations, just let's say in conjunction with the game continuation. All right. So this queen f1, it may give me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies. Probably still wins, but it gives me a little heebie-jeebies. For example, queen f4, queen b1, and then you got to deal with ye old queen h1 mate threat. Don't do that, buddy. a7. Oh, that's a nice move. There we go. That's the kind of chess we need to see. Queen b7, queen a1, all wrapped up. Very nice. So queen endgames have a bad reputation, but they really are aesthetic, and the whole like queen movement where you're touching everything from a square like A1. Absolutely beautiful. Yeah. I think we'll have a good analysis session here. Afterwards, we're going to do some dojo talks. We're going to talk about ratings. We're going to talk about ratings. And Kostya gets a lot of questions. Sometimes I do too, about the importance of ratings. And there's a variety of things to talk about. I think it's interesting in the... Is there a dirty trick that Kostya is aiming to do here? Yeah, he does. He has a dirty trick with G4, King H4, Queen H2. That's some dirty millennial sauce right there. I think en passant, though, is still available. Still valid in the new millennium. Well, Bruce is going to think about it for a little while. I like it. He's thinking. Yep. In both games, white won. How about that? Both games, they won. Yeah, A7 was a nice move. I think this is crispy critters. Yeah. These guys don't resign, man. They don't care. They're not going to resign. Check to the miserable king. There we go. Are Kostya and David improving? I honestly think that David's endgames, he blew the first one in a pawn grubby kind of way. But over the last several weeks, he has been playing good endgames. And Kostya's been stinking up the dojo. Now, look, is there a trick here? We got some, is there a dirty trick? I don't comprende that. I don't comprende that, young Padawan. Queen D7, I don't know what he wants. He's got some dirty trick. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know nothing about it. Yeah, look at that Queen D7. Just dirty, dirty tricks. Now, White has 1,000 different moves that win. Now let's just say Kostya's aiming for something like F4. Is it going to do anything? No. The easiest thing would be to play like a queen to E5 or something, but there's a variety of things that White can do. You could tap the queen with like Queen A7. You can do all kinds of things. Yup. They don't like to resign, these kids. They don't like to resign at all. I'm so cruel to them, too. I think it is possible for it to get a little bit confusing if you played Queen 1 to A7 and Queen D1. Then I kind of maybe, sort of, not really, could imagine a chance for a perpetual, but I don't think it even works there. Excuse me. Queen E5, the most practical of the choices. A thing called mate will happen soon. Unfortunately for Black, he still has the E pawn and the H pawn to move, so there's no chance of a stalemate. Okay, brilliant.
Brilliant? Did I hear brilliant?
Well, the whole show was brilliant, yeah.
Wow.
We'll talk, and so this is what I'm going to do, you guys. I'm going to invite you to the board, and I think we will remember both of the game variations, and we can kind of look at them.
Sure.
Okay, so here we go. Let's invite some people. Mr. Bruce. And we'll invite... This, by the way, I think is still the old version of chess.com. And because I'm a boomer GM, I have a hard time adapting to new technology. There's this new classroom feature, and it's like for millennials, and it's really like involved. I don't know. In any case, I'm still using the old. And DM Hokie said he was going to help me. He was going to help me figure out how to work the new technology.
Yeah, the classroom seems pretty cool.
They have.
Will.
That guy hasn't helped me out yet. Okay.
Will help you. Hokie will help you.
Okay, so first of all, I told chat, but you guys don't know, this is Bent Larson as White against Ulf Anderson as Black, 1975 in their match. and a match in 1975 to see who would challenge for the world championship. Let me just give a plug. Those matches were great back in the day. This Grand Prix, blah, 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 they're doing, I'm happy that there's something, but the matches back in the day, come on, can you imagine? Bent Larson, Ulf Anderson going toe to toe. Who is the best of the West and all that stuff? Come on, give me a break. You're not going to get any better. All right, here we go. First of all, congratulations on the first two moves. A5, D4. Good.
Those moves suggested themselves.
Okay. Now, Queen B7, exclam.
Yeah,
I said double exclam. That was really good.
Yeah.
I was more afraid of Queen B7 than Queen C6.
Right.
And then, last week when Kostya beat me with Rook B7 check, I switched my plan and played like Kostya played.
Okay.
When I got white. But this time I believed in Queen B7. I was like, yes, Kostya beat me with Queen C6, but I think Queen B7 is like even more brutal. Like I don't know what Black's supposed to do against it, so I'll let Kostya show me.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So now the move. So by the way, this is in Ben Perlow's book. I'm taking the last couple weeks. I've been doing this. I'm almost done with this book. Great book. And I don't really treat them as problems. I just look at the games and then I analyze stuff I don't understand. Right. So Anderson as Black played Queen F2, and there's no notes given. I felt the most challenging move here would have been D3.
Mm-hmm.
And I analyzed this out to what I thought maybe, kind of, sort of, was a win for White, but it wasn't clear to me. We were like here, geez, A6 maybe I thought was best.
So
D2.
this is why Queen B7 is stronger, right? Because White has this extra option.
Right. Mm-hmm. And I thought maybe White's winning this, but my God, that was the best I could do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's obviously very complicated.
Yeah. I thought you might say the F7 pawn doesn't matter, but the queen on F7 does also guard F2. And I thought, it's scary as Black to allow Queen F7.
Mm-hmm.
This looks completely winning. Yeah, I don't see what Black does. White has all the checks.
Okay,
Yeah.
When I see 4 queens on the board, I just see red. I don't know. It's pretty complicated.
Same,
man.
but Black has literally no checks in the position. What can they do?
Yeah, like in our first game, we got 4 queens, and in the variation, I could queen first, right? But because the white king was snug on H2, there was no advantage to queening first. Normally, you queen first with 4 queens, and it's like, well, that equals checkmate. It's not just an advantage. It's
yeah.
But as it was, I felt like I had to immediately trade 1 queen off the board and then keep suffering.
Good. Now, one thing I said in chat that I want to just stress, as far as I can tell, there are just 2 rules to queen endgames. 1, you want the queen to be centralized, and 2, the value of passed pawns goes up. And one of the things I really admire about Queen B7 is just like, buddy, we're rolling. It's all about speed. The F2 pawn, minor in comparison to the speed of these guys going down. So here we go. Queen F7.
Here's what I heard, Jesse, about passed pawns and queen endings. And I haven't studied them yet. So I'm submitting this to you not as a piece of wisdom, but to, maybe get corrected, right? But I heard that in queen and pawn endings, it's like the speed of your most advanced passed pawn that's more important than the number of pawns or even the number of passed pawns.
Yeah.
It's just the first person to cross the line.
Absolutely, yeah. It's all about speed. And let's just say, speed is always important. It's just that the value in comparison to, say, material has skyrocketed for the value of the passed pawn. Okay, so one of the reasons I just wanted to play for Black D3 was simply because by Queen F2, Queen E3, we've lost a tempo. And one thing, just quick variation I want to show, is that Black has no chance here because the king is in time. And then we're running the queen side pawns.
And if you play King E4 instead of D3 as Black, that'll allow you to queen your D pawn, but you step onto the diagonal and White plays A6 and wins the race.
A6 wins the race. Good. Okay, so this happened in the game. B6. We had a question from chat I want to address. Which pawn do you know how to push? And the problem with A6 is D3. White's queen
Oh.
looks like a bishop.
It looks like an opposite colored bishop ending that
Yeah.
I just messed up.
Okay, so B6 correct. Queen B3. And now here, David played B7, which we're going to see maybe still wins. We're going to show the amazing finish that Larson did here.
Wrong with it.
Check this move out. Remember what Bruce just said. The value of the passed pawns, how far advanced, the speed, that's what matters. Check it out. A6 exclam.
Oof.
I'm pretty sure I wouldn't have considered it. Boom. Baby. Resigns. Beautiful, right?
Yeah, I wasn't confident. I saw the idea of sacking one pawn to make the other pawn keep going. I had that idea, but like this kind of thing, ooh, it's scary. I'm afraid to pull the trigger with these like 30-second per move.
Yeah. Now, maybe your move, though, maybe, it gave black a lot more options. Let's put it that way, right?
I felt really safe with my move, but often if you refuse to pull the trigger and keep playing like the safer move, then eventually it gets out of hand.
By the way, this move on this circumstance, D3 is also really vicious. And arguably black's better try. In the game, Queen B3 was also played. But D3...
Yeah, actually, I spent a lot of time here. I thought about D3. I thought it was actually... Actually, I didn't see a super clear path for white.
Mm-hmm.
So there's Queen F1, Queen H3.
There's not Queen F1?
So Queen F1, the problem is King G4.
King G4?
Right.
Yeah.
Hang on.
Hang on.
What
Yeah.
plan is that from? Okay. Oh, jeez. Okay. Queen F1, King G4, Queen H3.
King G5.
Yeah, I think King G5. Mm-hmm.
And then queens.
And then if I want, I can play Queen F2.
Queen F2, yeah.
Queen G2.
And if I want, I could take D1.
King takes. Queen E5.
But that's not clear. Right? And the Queen
Isn't
D2
white trading queens there by force? Queen E5, King G4, right?
Okay, let's
And then Queen
talk
F4,
about
Queen
it. So,
F3.
so it went like this: Queen H3, King G5, B8, and now black has two options: three: Queen F2, Queen E2, and D1. And I guess the claim is that D1, Queen H4, and we're somehow going to lose that, which wouldn't be surprising.
That's me. Yeah, it's Queen H4 and Queen C8.
But wait a second, I go Queen E2 here,
Queen E2.
check to the
just check
miserable
on
king.
H5.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Simple.
Queen E2 is accurate.
Ouch. Okay. Wow.
So right, I think the way best play would have gone here would have been Queen, Queen,
Oh, God.
check, here, check, here, check, here, here. Oh my gosh! King E8.
Yeah, this is hard to
Check.
find. Next move.
Check, check, here. Oh my gosh! And then Queen E5, and white has winning chances.
Yeah, slightly better for white. Yeah.
Slightly
no, that's
better for
done.
white.
That's done.
Hello.
No, it's not done. Wow, it's so okay. That's really hard.
Yeah.
Actually, honestly, during the game, I was really considering to go for this one actually, because I want to run to D3 and then maybe block Queen D4. But okay, just look. This looks terrifying, right? Like I assumed white is winning somehow.
That definitely looks terrifying.
Oh
But
my
maybe
God.
a better practical try. I mean,
But doesn't Queen G2 give us immediate heartache?
I missed like all
King
these
D3?
variations.
Queen what?
King D3, I think. Was
But then I
my-
got the check to the miserable. Oh, and you're going to play Queen D4.
Yeah.
So you got to
yeah,
check him from B5 now to undo Costa's plans.
I don't know. This looks like mate.
Yeah, Queen
Queen
B5.
B5
right. It
ends
looks
it.
looks like mate. Yeah.
Then you've got Queen G to B2.
Right. Yeah. Queen takes E5. Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. Looked bad.
Okay, just to wrap things up, let's briefly look, and then we're going to do dojo talks. Let's briefly look at the Queen C6 variation, and you guys can remind me how it went. So Queen C6, D3.
Yeah, give check on F3.
Back on F3 and then push the A pawn. And we both queen. Did I have any major alternatives here?
Well, it was later what you did that was
Okay.
funky. So here, and I'm
Yeah.
just checking myself here. So it was like Queen B3
Yeah.
and Queen D5. You could have played King E7 or F6, but okay.
Yeah.
Then here, and then you had to
This
play
is where I
E4.
played King D7, yeah.
And let me just enter your mind for a second, Mr. Proust.
Oh, because of this one, I didn't see H5 as a big target.
Because I said to myself, Mr. Proust doesn't like E4 because black is then playing for a draw, and the guy can't even imagine playing for a draw. So in Mr.
Oh, no,
Proust's
I was
mind.
playing for a draw. I was playing for
Okay.
I mean, Queen E2 white does keep some chances, right? Or you think it's nothing?
It's hard to imagine then after Queen E2 how you're going to both contain the counterplay, and now you're not behind the passed pawn anymore.
Yes.
Hang on. I was expecting here.
Like, for example, Queen E2, Queen D4 maybe, looks good.
I was concerned here about.
By the way, centralization of the queen, yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Mr. Proust.
I was concerned here about the move G4.
Okay.
And I had a second concern. I had multiple concerns, and sometimes, I don't like
G4
get
makes
anywhere because I've got multiple concerns. My second concern was on. Oh, that doesn't make any sense. My second concern was King G2. Just blundering E3. But my fear was that on this move there would be check here covering F3 and then chugga chugga.
Well, here you could play for a win with Queen D5.
Yeah, missed that too. Okay, but my main concern was G4, which is a weird move.
It's a weird move.
I couldn't refute it. I thought of like F5 and I thought about Queen E5. And I think here Queen E5 loses for black.
Yeah, maybe Queen
White just
G5.
plays King G3 and stuff.
Yeah, there's definite drama here for white, though, because you got to deal with Queen D6 and Queen G5. Yeah, both those look like real challenges. Maybe I don't know. Okay, good. So, great. That was a good one. I like that one a lot. Well,
Queen
we're gonna.
G5, Queen B3 now.
But Queen H4, what are you gonna do?
Oh, yeah, it depends where Black King goes.
Maybe white plays King H3 next.
So this king.
It's F5 then. It's going to be.
Well, the king has the opportunity now to do the Prussian maneuver of
Really?
going to do the nasty on the
Okay.
pawn.
Okay.
Okay, guys, let's wrap it up. We're going to come back. We're going to do dojo talks. Thank you for joining Endgame Sensei. I love this show, even if I give them a hard time. This was a good one. The game again was Larson against Anderson from their match in 1975. When we put it up on YouTube, I'll also give a link to that game if you want to see the full game in its entirety. All right, everybody. And by the way, back in the day, there was no increment. Those guys didn't have increment. I just want to tell you, back in the day, we were slamming the clocks. The flag was hanging by a thread. Just hanging by a thread. And no one knew how many seconds were left. Costa made a move here with 3 seconds left. We didn't know. We would bang the clocks in the hopes that the flag would fall. That's the way it would go. All right, everybody. We'll be back in a second.